What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're
Nick and Joe.
Wow, we never get the intro bad.
That was a tough one. That was your fault, though, 100%.
Welcome back to an all-new episode of the K-Drama Club, where we've been watching Startup on Netflix, which is kind of like a new K-drama that came out not too long ago. We're already on episode 11. 10? We're on episode 10, and we're going to talk about it. So K-Drama Club, we're taking this episode by episode with Startup, going over our thoughts and our predictions about the show. So if you haven't been following along, go check out some of our previous videos and make sure you subscribe to the channel, because as this show comes out every weekend, we are recording our reaction for each episode. So you should stay tuned for that. This was the craziest episode. So many things happened in this episode. I don't think we could possibly cover it all.
Yeah, we definitely can't talk about like everything that happened.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of like break it down a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna break it down. Talk about the major things.
Yeah, and what we think it means or what we think is going to happen.
Yes, and of course the major thing, cliffhanger from last episode, and then picking right up where we left off, is the secret is out.
Secret is out. Who wrote the letters and who did not write the letters?
And Dalmi knows it all, but she still seems slightly confused, which I find odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a big thing for her to break down.
Yes.
Because her whole life she thought it was real. All of a sudden it became something very real.
Yes.
And then she's realizing that it's not.
All made up.
Yeah, it's
and
not
like
real.
Basically 3 people that were very close to her in her life at the moment were all lying.
Exactly.
To her, like all conspiring. Like there was a moment where she was just like sitting, and you could tell like she was like going through all the things, like like parsing out like, oh, that was a lie, that was a lie, that was a lie, and that was kind of like heartbreaking to see her character have to do.
It was interesting to see how like each individual character like kind of handled that like truth coming out.
Sure.
So like first you have obviously Dalmi, who's obviously upset. Like that's no surprise. But then Dosan just started like following her around.
Yes, he became like a total creep.
Yeah, and it was really strange because like I understand it's a TV show, but if that was like a real life situation,
It's not good. It's
really
toxic.
weird. And like there were times where it was very like super invasion of her privacy when she's like venting to that random person at the bar, and he's like sitting behind her and like listening, and then like butts in during the conversation.
Yeah, but I think that's like it might be a cultural difference, and it might also just be like the fairy tale like nature of the show a little bit, where it's like it's not really supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be viewed as romantic kind of. It's not really supposed to be viewed as creepy, even though it's kind of creepy.
Because the show is somewhat like lighthearted in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Obviously this was not a lighthearted episode,
No.
but I don't know, like watching that whole series of like events where he's like following her and like just like pining over her and like waiting outside her house, like
dude,
it
chill.
it just made me feel kind of uncomfortable. It's like obviously like she wants and needs space to like think about this.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just like my realistic like brain like thinking about a situation and not so much what like the show is about, obviously.
Were you surprised that she did not seem to be upset at her grandmother?
That's the one thing that I could not understand, is that there seemed to be almost no like negative feelings towards her grandmother.
No.
But
She's giving her a little bit of a cold shoulder, like when
Yeah.
she's putting the things on like the corners, like so she doesn't like walk into them when she's blind. Like it's a little bit like cold, but other than that, like they pretty much were acting normal.
Yeah, they don't have any sort of discussion about it.
Yeah.
But I think that might come later.
Hopefully.
Because it would be a really weird like hole in the story if the grandmother is in on all this stuff.
Did she say to her? She says something like, "I just wanted you to have a friend" or something like that. I don't know if she said that.
Jipyeong tells her that.
Oh, okay.
And like
told her that.
The grandmother said that.
Oh, yeah.
So like the grandmother, I feel like almost had no interaction with Dalmi about like what the truth about the letters or anything like that. I think that they have to have that conversation at some point, or else I think that's like a major flaw, like something that they missed. They can't like just like gloss over that, I feel like.
Or she just like doesn't care. Like it's her grandmother. She loves her grandmother, and she's more mad at the guys for going along with it.
Which is really weird, because it would be strange to be like that upset at the 2 guys and then just not even be upset at the grandmother.
Yeah.
Like I know that you like obviously she's been with you like your whole life and you love her and everything, but it's still like it would be a very strange way to look at it, to like forgive the one person of the 3 and then kind of the other 2 just be confused. But also I don't think she didn't seem like she's like angry at them. She seems very torn.
Yes.
Like she's not sure. Like I think like it's almost like in her mind she's like, oh, I have to choose one of them.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
That's like the when she had the conversation with like the fake like fortune teller like kind of person, seems like she almost made it seem like I don't know which one I'm gonna pick. Exactly. So it's not like she's mad.
It's not like F all of you. She's like, oh, now what do I do?
Yeah, now what am I supposed to do?
Which is interesting, not the way I thought it would go.
Yeah.
And she's very determined for like work and stuff to be like, I'm just gonna put a smile on and we're gonna act kind of normal, and we have to just keep working because we have this thing going on. But what do you think of Jipyeong's reaction?
I think Jipyeong handled it like the most sane out of all of the people. Like,
and it was very true to his character too, where he's kind of avoiding the situation still.
So in the beginning, he's just like calling the grandmother like, "Oh, is she okay?"
Right.
Like, I thought that was like very like nice and like a realistic approach to like give her some space, like check in on her with like her grandmother and stuff. But then she goes to get lunch and she sits by herself, and he comes in and kind of like confesses his feelings and stuff. That was like a drastic shift, I think, in his like character. Like that's not generally how he would handle things.
And I thought that was a lot better than Dosan's approach, because he meets up with her. He sits and he's just like unemotional, not really emotional. He's just like, I'm gonna tell you some other things, and this is how I'm feeling, and here it is, like laying all out there, not just like pining and not just like begging. You know what I mean? He just tells it like it is, tells his truth.
Yeah, and he just sits down and like, and the thing is that he does it like super calmly. Like this whole episode, Dosan's like crying and like freaking out, like, oh my God. And I think that like when someone's upset, the last thing they need is like another upset person like screaming in their face or like, you know, trying to make them feel a certain way. And Jipyeong kind of just sits down and like super calm and is like, hey, like this is how I feel. I don't expect you to say anything. It's important to me that you know, and he just sits there and eats with her. You know, I am on the side.
You're on that team.
I'm on that team, but again, this episode pushes it further where I think that that's not how it's going to go. Yeah. Because it focuses so much on Dosan and Dalmi and like their interactions. And like it's almost like everything in the show is preventing Jipyeong from like Dosan's friends won't let him talk to her. There's just like I feel like every time he has like something important he wants to say, it's like it gets pushed to the side.
Yeah, it gets cut off.
Except for the one interaction in the cafe. Yeah. And I feel like that's obviously how kind of the relationships are at this point. Yeah. So I don't know.
She doesn't seem any closer to caring that he actually wrote the letters.
Yeah, but I think that's every conversation they had, the one thing that he did not say is like, hey, like I meant what I said in those letters.
Yeah.
Like she just thinks that like he made it seem like, oh, me and your grandmother made up this character and wrote these letters. But obviously they meant something to him. I don't think he wants to admit that they actually meant something to him. It was like a friend for him as well.
It's a weird thing because they meant something to him, but he was not telling the whole truth in those letters. He was also making up details like to be more appealing to her, like to be a better pen pal to her. So it wasn't 100% him that she was getting, even though a little bit of it was, and he has that emotional connection to having written those letters, but I don't know, it's very odd.
Yeah, but I think like if he had just said to her like, I know that I used a different name, all this stuff, but like I meant a lot of the things that I said in those letters, and I really did care about you back then, and I still do, then like that would have gone a long way.
He doesn't got the game for that.
Yeah, he just doesn't like nobody's thinking clearly at this point, I think. And nobody knows like what to say or what to do because it's obviously this crazy situation.
Maybe I'm now team that tell me he should go off with somebody else.
Yeah.
Meet somebody new.
This was probably like the most emotional episode yet. Like just constantly crying.
Very emotional.
Like everybody was crying all the time. It was like a lot, and it was like beginning to end. Like just like a lot of stuff happening.
You want to know what the most emotional scene for me was?
Which one?
It was Saha and Chulsun.
Yeah.
I don't know why. We never get to see those characters. Like, well, we see them like banter a little bit, but like in this episode, we got a little bit more. She basically lays it out for the two friends because they're on Dosan's side, obviously, and they're like, he lied to her because he wanted her to be happy. And she turns that on Chulsun and acts like she likes him for a moment, and he gets so excited, and then she goes, no, I was just lying, and then he feels super bad and let down, and she's like, see. There it is. And I thought that was a really cool thing. But then there's the scene later where they have another interaction and he like really says like, I really was let down by that.
Yeah.
And like he was like really sad. And that was like so sad.
He's like, things that you do make me really happy and really sad. So I would prefer it if like you didn't.
Yeah, like just don't play with me.
Yeah, don't mess with me. Because it makes me upset. And you can see like there is like a little bit of a shift in her like I hope they don't ruin her character.
Well, you think she's going to soften up?
Yeah, I think she's going to soften up.
You think that would ruin her character?
A little bit.
I think if she was a little less cold, it would.
Yeah. I think they're setting up for like a love interest there.
There's no way.
I think that they are.
That would be so corny.
Yeah, I know, but I think that's kind of like the way that if she just like is like, okay, like this is not a
Maybe she
good
just
thing
becomes
for
a
me
little
to
more
do.
compassionate.
If that's the case, then I'm okay with it. But
She's amazing.
If anything further than that, if those two end up like dating or anything, I'm gonna be a little bit upset.
I love her.
Yeah, because her character was so like brash and like blunt. I would hate to see them turn her into like, you know, someone who's like
all of a sudden going to be in love with this goofy
in love
dude.
with him.
Listen, tens go with tens, and that is not going to happen.
And then obviously at the end of the episode,
I don't even know.
end of the episode, well, we finally find out
who the like revenge seeker is.
And I just want to say, give myself a pat on the back that
you knew
I
it all along.
nailed this right from the very beginning.
It barely makes sense.
Yeah, and I find it weird because you would think that them being close friends with him, that they would know that his brother was in Sandbox and had killed himself.
Yes.
And
especially since they're like doing their own startup thing, and Sandbox had always been like a big goal. You'd think he would have mentioned like, oh, my brother was in Sandbox, but maybe his brother like killing himself. Feel like he doesn't talk about his brother at all or something.
But even so, like I would assume that they would know about it, and then I would also assume that would have come up at some point, like maybe like obviously we don't see every single thing in this world that happens.
Yeah.
But you would think that like they were like, hey, like I know that like your brother was doing this, and like we're here now. Are you like good and everything? But
big twist there is the revenge he is seeking is not on like the CEO of Sandbox. It's on Jipyeong.
Yeah. And the thing is that Jipyeong goes through all this stuff like, oh, on demo day, they ask you really, really hard questions. They go really, really hard at you. Like, if you don't have good answers, like a ton of pressure. You kind of figure out through the episode that his brother killed himself after the demo day because they were way too hard on him. And like he probably, I don't know. They're going to, I'm sure we'll find out more about what happened. From what I gather is that Jipyeong went super, super hard at this person on demo day and was being very, very like aggressive with his questions and stuff.
Corners him in the elevator and says, "Why did you kill my brother?"
Exactly.
Basically, he's blaming him for the death of his brother. It's like basically saying he killed him.
Yeah. I'm interested to see like what happens with that situation because they're like alone. He's like pinning him against the wall. Yongsan is pinning.
Where does that go? Hostage situation?
Yeah, like, but I think that it's gonna like the elevator's gonna open. I think it's gonna be over, and then it's gonna go from there. But I just feel like that's not something that's gonna be like a secret. Like Jipyeong's gonna be like, what happened with this? Like why? And like he's not the kind of character that's gonna like pull some crazy stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think his character is gonna do like some crazy like revenge plot.
Unless there's some like kidnap. That's the only way because if they built up to this like moment and this mystery and stuff, I feel like it has to be more dramatic than just like that scene. Like they're in and out of the elevator. So I think it could evolve into something where like he ends up kidnapping Jipyeong and they go missing for a bit and then it turns into a whole situation.
Yeah.
It would be weird if it was just over and done like next episode.
Yeah.
Because once it's out that this whole revenge thing is going on, where does it go from there if everybody knows about it?
Yeah, if everybody knows that like he wants revenge on Jipyeong, like the thing is like they're working together. Since it's his brother and he feels this way, it's probably important enough to him to like ruin like this whole situation for everybody. Once they got into Sandbox and stuff, this is something that he's been thinking about.
Yeah.
And he was just waiting for a moment alone with Jipyeong to like confront him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested to see how it kind of like develops from there. When the thing with Jipyeong and Yongsan happened, I think that kind of like took more of my interest to see where that goes than to see like what happens with like
the romance.
Yeah, the romance kind of side of it. Because I think like we kind of have a lot of like good ideas about where that's going, but this whole like revenge thing, it's like I have no idea how this is, like what's going to happen next or how they're going to handle it. So
the final honorable mention is that Injae and Dalmi's mother working for her mother-in-law, the grandmother, at the corn dog stand. And I thought that the scene was very funny when the grandmother is like fighting off her husband and son with an umbrella.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, and final honorable mention is that we are confirmed that Dalmi was the girl on the swing, not Injae.
Yes, indeed.
So, which,
and finally, like, Injae gets her comeuppance. Is it Dosan that shows up and goes, "You're not actually confident, you're super insecure, and you put on an act for everybody else"? I'm so glad somebody said that to me.
Yeah. Injae seemed like she showed a little bit of vulnerability in like a couple of conversations she had with Dalmi in this episode. So I think that relationship is going to be on its way to being repaired.
We've been on this track for like 3 episodes now, where they've been, won't they be sisters again? Like,
they make very little progress.
Yes.
But I think as well, like with the mother working with the grandmother, we're going to start to see a lot of old wounds being healed.
Well, we can only hope for more Saha next episode.
Yeah, we'll get our Saha and.
If you have comments related specifically to Saha, give us fun facts about the actress. Give us fun facts about like the character. Just leave them in the comments. We want to talk more about Saha.
Yeah, need more Saha content.
But seriously, if you have any comments about the episode or predictions, or you agree or disagree with some of our ideas, please leave them in a comment below, because we read them. Joe responds to all of them, and it's just really cool to see what you all think of the show. Give this video a thumbs up because it really helps with the algorithm, helps people see more of our videos, and make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're doing this for every episode of Startup, and who knows what K-drama we'll do next. And then we also have some content reacting to some K-pop stuff like Blackpink, Twice, Lauren, and some other stuff coming up real soon. So make sure you subscribe, check out some of our other videos, and that's going to be it today for another episode of the K-Drama Club. My name's Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe.
Nick and Joe.